My favorite exercises for growing your booty, so definitely would be. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be giving you my finally giving you the bulk update. If you guys saw my previous bulking video, I'll pop it up here. I started bulking, let me think, what is it, May now? I want to say, I think it was the end of January that I started bulking on a vegan diet, of course. So I started my bulk at the end of January. It's now the beginning of May, so I thought this was the perfect time to update you guys, kind of let you know what's changed and as far as like my workout split, my macros, my measurements, what gains I've made, all that fun stuff. So let's just get into it. I have notes. Okay, so first things first, current macros. I forget, I think when I first started, I started out at 2100 calories, and I did say that I was going to work my way up, which I did do. So what I've been doing is I've been doing between 2200 2300 calories, sometimes over that on like really heavy leg days. It just depends. I kind of go in between that range. For protein, I've been doing anywhere from 150 grams to 190 grams. Again, it depends. If I did like a really heavy leg day, I usually try to aim for more protein, whereas like on just like an arm day or even on rest days, I'll go for the lower range of that. For carbs, anywhere between 220 to 280 grams, even sometimes almost 300. And again, the higher ranges are for heavier days, usually leg days. I go for those higher ranges. And then on just either like lighter weight days or rest days, I go for the lower end of that. And then for fat, again, between 50 and 70 grams, sometimes more, depends on what I'm doing that day. So my current workout split, Mondays I have been doing hammies and glutes. Tuesdays I've been doing back and buys and a little bit of abs. Wednesdays, which is, I think this is different than what I started, I've been doing just glute isolation exercises, mostly lightweight and high reps. If some exercise I'll go a little bit heavier, it depends, but for the most part it's light to moderate weight and high reps, just glutes, totally glute isolation exercises on Wednesdays. And sometimes on Wednesdays I'll throw in HIIT after weights, but that's only sometimes. But that's what I do Wednesdays. Thursdays are shoulders, tris, and chest. Again, sometimes I'll throw in another HIIT at the end of that, just depends if I'm in the mood for it. And I'll talk about why I throw in some HIIT randomly in a little bit, going on one of the questions that you guys asked me. And then Fridays I do quads and glutes. So I'm training legs 3 times a week, glutes 3 times a week, with that Wednesday being totally glute focused. So that's my current workout split. Now I'll tell you measurements. So currently my waist is 27 inches. When I started it was 26 inches, so I've gained about an inch there. Booty is now 39.4 inches, which is a 2.4 inch gain. When I started, it was 37 inches when I first started. So I'm pretty excited about that. That's the most that I've gained anywhere so far, which was the goal. My biceps are 11.25 inches, which is 1.25 inch gain. I started out at 10. Yeah, I started out like 10 inches, but my arms are the hardest to grow. Like my biceps take forever to grow. It's just so difficult. So I'm excited about even any sort of gain in my arms, because that's always been the hardest muscle for me to grow. And then my quads have grown 2 inches. They are now 21.5 inches, and before they were 19.5 inches. So that is super exciting. Definitely everything that I've been doing is pretty much working, where as far as like not gaining too much here, but gaining in the muscles that I want to gain. And that will be, I'll just jump to this question first. So now we'll do questions. So one of you asked me what type of cardio that I'm doing on this bulk, if any at all. So I usually do between 5 to 10 minute warm-ups right before weights. Usually it's either on the stairs or I walk on an incline on the treadmill. And then 1 or 2 days a week, very rarely 3, usually 1 or 2 days a week, I'll do HIIT after weights. And the reason I'll do it after weights is because during weights you use the majority of your muscle glycogen stores. And so when you go to do HIIT after you've already used up all that energy for weights, your body in theory is going to go directly to fat for energy. So I'll do HIIT 1 to 2 times a week. If I'm in the mood for it, it depends. It's not something that it's like I have to do, but I like to throw in at least 1 session per week, if not 2, if I have the time, just because again, it helps with fat burn. And I think that's the reason why my waist hasn't grown that much in comparison to everything else that has. So for HIIT, I'll either do just like a short circuit of, 30 seconds, 3 rounds of 4 to 5 body weight exercise, like jumping, jump squats, pop squats, box jumps with the battle ropes, burpees, push-ups, like stuff like that. Or I'll do it on the stairs, which is my favorite type of HIIT, where I'll do 2 minutes of a warm-up speed, which is just kind of easy. And from there, I'll increase it every minute. I'll alternate between something that's decently easy and then like as fast as I can possibly go. And I'll do that for only 10 minutes. And it's only 10 minutes, but it seriously is like killer. It's such a good HIIT. That's probably my favorite of the 2 ways that I like to do it. But yeah, sometimes I do cardio. If I do, it's HIIT and it's after weights. Another question you guys asked was, what are my biggest and best sources of protein? Seitan for sure. I love seitan. It's so easy to just throw into like anything. Tofu, again, really easy, really good. Not hard to incorporate into meals because you can make it taste like anything. Lentils, beans. Sometimes mock meats, like I like the Gardein tenders. Sometimes like Beyond Burgers. I don't have those too often. They have a good amount of protein, but I don't eat them like all the time. Protein powder. I talked about that in, what video did I talk about that in? Was it I think it was my What I Eat in a Day video. I talked about the protein powders that I liked. So again, I'll just put that up here. Seeds, peanut butter, stuff like that. But definitely like the top biggest ones would be seitan, tofu, lentils, and protein powder. Those are the ones that I have the most often and really help me hit my protein goals. How do I progressively overload? So this is a good question because before I even get into that, progressive overload is when you increase the amount of weight that you're using steadily over time. This increases strength and also builds muscle. I've been progressively overloading hip thrusts, leg press, lat pull down, and deadlifts kind of. I wasn't doing it at first, but as of lately, I've been progressively overloading deadlifts. But the main ones are hip thrust, leg press, and lat pull down. And so what I'll do is I have a spreadsheet in Google Sheets, and I just keep track of every workout session, whatever exercise that it is. I put the exercise, the date, the exercise, the amount of weight I use, and how many reps I got. And this allows me to keep track of my weights and how I've progressively overloaded over time and how to calculate my increases. So what I like to do is I like to try and increase it almost, it depends what I did last week. So like how many reps that I got, but when I'm progressively overloading, I'll usually do 4 to 5 sets of this workout, and I'll only aim for like 6 to 10 reps, sometimes even 4 reps if I'm going for a new PR. It really it depends how much weight I'm doing. So for example, with hip thrusts, yes, this past week, the last time I did hip thrusts, I increased my weight to 210 pounds, which was a new PR for me, and I was able to get, I think I got 6 or 8 reps. I don't remember. But anyway, in the week before that, I did 200 for 8. So I try to increase it every week, but say, there's a week that I get a certain amount of weight and I only get 4 reps for it. I'll try to at least get, for the following week, I'll try to at least get that to 6. Once I get above 6 reps, then I'll go up to the next one. But if I'm like 6 or below, I stay at that weight until I'm able to get it up to a little bit more of a higher rep range. That's just how I personally do it. I mean, you can increase it every single time, even if you only get like 1 rep out of it. But I personally like to be able to get at least 6 reps, if not more, before I increase my weight. But using a spreadsheet really helps to keep track of it because it's just, I don't know, it's really easy to keep it organized, and you can get Google Sheets on your phone. So that's super easy. Hold on, I will show you. This is for hip thrusts. So you can see in January, I started at 130 and I got 12, and I was getting 12 for almost a decent amount of them for a while. And then once I got over 200, I did get 8 for 210. Okay, I thought it was 6. But yeah, now that I'm over 200, I'm not really getting 12 for it anymore just because it's a little hard. But yeah, I got 8 for 210, and that's the most that I've ever done. So since I got 8, I'm probably gonna try 215 next week, and I'm gonna aim for at least 4 to 6. So we'll see how that goes. But I hope that answers that question about progressive overload and how I do it and like what it is. This is another good question. How do you cope with the number on the scale increasing? So at first, it was kind of hard at first, I'm not gonna lie, because the majority of my fitness journey has been based on losing weight, or like getting skinnier, getting thinner, getting abs, just like kind of like becoming smaller. I've always been aiming to build up my booty, but it was never my main focus to really bulk. I was always like trying to build this while losing this at the same time. So this was the first time that I really focused on gaining weight. And yeah, at first, I'm not gonna lie, like seeing the number on the scale go up was a little bit like, whoa, like kind of made me feel weird. But what I kept reminding myself, and now it doesn't bother me at all, but what I kept reminding myself is that, one, muscle weighs more than fat. So I've gained so much muscle since I've started this bulk, and the reason why I weigh heavier is because muscle weighs more than fat, and I've replaced a lot of fat, or whatever fat I did have, with muscle, and I didn't really gain too much fat on this bulk. But regardless, muscle weighs more than fat, one, and then two, your self-worth is not defined by how much space you take up. Gaining weight isn't a bad thing. It's not the devil. It's not something that you should look at and be like, you know, oh, like I feel disgusting, I'm so gross, I gained weight. Like, no, your self-worth is not determined by how much space you take up. And once I got that through my head, like I didn't really care about the number on the scale. I don't really even weigh myself that often. I take measurements more than anything, because I just find that to be much more accurate of my results than like pounds or weight. But regardless, your self-worth is not determined by how much space you take up. How do you allocate meals so you're not full all the time? It depends on the day. When I increase my calories, and this kind of goes with the next question too, so I'll kind of answer these both at the same time, is how do I maintain appetite? So when I increased my calories, I didn't, you know, go from eating whatever I was eating before my maintenance, which is maybe like 1900 calories, up to 2300 calories overnight. Because if you go into a surplus so drastically, you're gonna get bloated, you're gonna feel full all the time, you're not gonna wanna eat, and you're not gonna be able to hit your calorie and macro goals. So what I did was I steadily increased my calorie intake over time. So I started with 2000, and then I went up to 2100 maybe 2 weeks later. And then after 2100, maybe like after a week or 10 days, I went to 2200. And then after another week or two, I went up to 2300, and that's where I decided to stay. Some days, I don't know, because I don't always track every single day. Usually on the weekends I don't track, so there's probably have been some days where I went over 2300. But regardless, if you want to increase your calorie intake and you don't want to, you know, feel full and bloated all the time, steadily increase it over time. Don't just drastically go into a surplus overnight, because that'll shock your system and you'll get really bloated and full, and it'll be really hard to meet those goals. So that's my best advice, is just steadily increase it over time. And also listen to your body. If your body's not hungry and you still have like 300 calories left for the day, you don't have to force yourself to eat. I mean, you can, but you'll probably get bloated and feel really full, like that full, like, I don't know how to describe it, like just like that super full, bloated, like feeling. I mean, you can do that if you don't mind that, it goes away. But if you are super full, you don't really feel like eating anymore, and you have a certain amount of calories left to eat in the day, you can stop eating, because that just means your body's not ready for the increase that you've given it. So give it more time, slowly increase it more, increase it by 50 instead of 100 next week if you have to. That's the easiest way to prevent yourself from getting full, is you have to give your body a chance to get used to it. Don't just shock it overnight with more calories. And then the last question, which I expected to get, is my favorite exercises for growing your booty. So definitely would be hip thrusts, deadlifts, squats, and all different squat variations, like sumo squats, pulse squats, narrow stance squats, just all the variations. Good mornings, I really like good mornings a lot. I like to sometimes elevate my toes with good mornings. Sometimes I'll do good mornings with pulses. Sometimes I'll do it with bands above my knees. I like the leg press. I think it's super underrated, especially for your quads, and I think your booty too. It's a compound exercise. I think it's underrated. I like it. Abduction machine, cable kickbacks. These are more like, they're more like an accessory move, cable kickbacks. But I like those. And then definitely glute activation is super important. I think I talked about this too in my last video about my bulk, but you want to make sure that you're getting your glutes fired up before you're going into weight. So you can do this with resistance bands, which are super easy, like donkey kicks, glute bridges, banded side steps. Sometimes I'll use cable kickbacks for glute activation with the abduction machine, clamshells, fire hydrants, standing banded kickbacks, all those different things. You can even do body weight hip thrusts with a band, and then like when you get to the top, you can abduct. Those are really good. Single leg glute bridges, single leg body weight hip thrusts with bands, stuff like that, that just really like, you don't use weight for it, but when you do 15 to 20 reps and 3 sets of them, your butt is literally screaming like it's on fire. Those are the kind of exercises that you want to do before your weights, because that gets they wake your glutes up, get them activated, and then you go right into your heavy weights, your heavy hip thrusts, your heavy squats, your heavy leg press, your heavy deadlifts. Though that's key. Those are my favorite exercises. I do those consistently. I hip thrust 3 times a week. I leg press once a week. I deadlift once a week, and then sometimes I'll do like deadlift variations throughout the rest of the week. And I squat 2 to 3 times a week. Once a week is when I focus on just squatting, like regular squats, and then other times during the week I'll do different variations like sumo squats, side squats, Bulgarian split squats, kneeling squats. There's a ton of variations that you can do, but yeah, those are my favorite ones. But the major key to building not just your butt but any muscle is eating a calorie surplus, getting enough protein and carbs, progressively overloading your lifts, and always challenging yourself. I always stick to the same compound lifts, but in the accessory moves is when I try to switch things up. So I always hip thrust, I always deadlift, I always squat, and I always do the leg press, I always do the lat pull down machine, I always do dumbbell curls. But I try to add in accessory workouts that are a little bit different, and challenge my muscles in different ways, different variations of things. Like I talked about the squat variations earlier. There's a ton of different hip thrust variations, like myo rep hip thrusts. You could do single leg hip thrusts, frog stance hip thrusts. Like you could do hip thrusts with a band, and then at the top you abduct with each rep. I mean, there's so many different variations of like every single exercise, and it's fun to do the basic compound move and then add in the variations as accessories or for something to do later in your workout. It just gives your muscles a new challenge. But yeah, I think that's it for this video. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about bulking, my progress, what I've been doing on my bulk. Any question, if you want anything further explained that I talked about in this video, let me know in the comments and I will get back to you and hopefully be able to answer your question a little bit better. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.